Hello and welcome to this webinar on hospitality trends and challenges in 2023. My name is Aslak de Silva. I'm the CEO of Selfly Store. Welcome. Today we're going to talk first about a bit on the trends and the challenges here we are facing, and after that we're going to have a panel discussion led by our CMO Malin Östman, and we have a guest star from Sokos Hotels, Jukka Kaartinen, who's a business development manager there and also running the Heymo Hotel, which is the first one to use Selfly Store cabinets in the world. But when we look at the trends first, before going to that, a brief introduction on Selfly Store. So we have been doing business with these intelligent fridges and soon with freezers for almost 7 years now. And we are operating in 21 countries where we have actually hotels working with us in 7 countries in Europe. We have won many different awards, the latest being the biggest probably is the Best New Product Award from Wendy's in 2022 with our Model 3, which was then awarded with the Best New Product in the market in Europe. We also have won awards in RFID technology, IoT and others globally also in the US. Our team is very international. We work with customers in 21 countries and we have 7 countries locations with our team. Together with, if we calculate also the production side and some outsourced resources, we are almost 100 people working for you. We invest a lot in the R&D, so we want to have the best products from the hardware and from the software side. So almost 60% of our revenue goes yearly to product development and research and development there. But today we're going to talk first about some challenges to overcome from the hospitality industry's perspective. First one being the labor shortage. Of course, this is a big question for us. After COVID-19, there were a lot of people out of their jobs and they might not have wanted to stay in this field, which was very unsecure and uncertain for the time being. For more than 2 years, there was an uncertainty. When can you open up hotels and so on? So I know we lost a lot of talent in this industry. At the same time, there are a lot of new opportunities for these talented people. And if you think about the requirements of the people working for a hotel, it might be that you need a lot of language skills. You need to be great at customer service, take people with a great customer experience all the time and advise them for different things around the location that you are based. So of course, it's not that easy to go for the talent there and get the best people in. And of course, then at the same time, this brings problems for the hotels that the costs arise if you need to pay more for these people that you want to work with. Actually, give one tip already at this time for you to think what you can do to attract the talent. So you can provide actually gamification for young talent is something that they like. So with Selfly Store, you could actually do in a way that you can promote the employee of the month and put it on the screen and make that person to actually choose the assortment or having tips for the night. So they might have a dinner tips there on sale that take this combo and use that. Or you might want to have a competition that you get to kind of play a computer game and you have full power of changing the price to kind of making promotions to combo deals, maybe having a happy hours at certain time, and let your employees and team members to do this for you and try it out what makes the most sales for you and bigger profits. And at the same time, actually, it will be fun to work with you and you will attract the talent when they actually get these new opportunities. Many times talented people are not there just for the work. They want something else for themselves and develop and learn. So this might be a great opportunity for you to build it in a way that you keep the talent that you attract and also promote the new cool places that you work with. I'm sure we're going to hear more about Heymo and how they have done this and how they keep the talent. Some interesting stories for sure will come from Jukka later on. We all know the costs have been rising. The inflation has been really, really high. It's not only on the work for payments, but of course that has been a huge thing already. Even prior to COVID, if you look at the UK market, the salaries had increased for hotel industry more than 50% in a decade. And we all know that even now in the late turns, that the salary increase in a single year might be 5 to 10% on overall for everybody. And if you think again the best talent, they have a ways to go for another options. So therefore, you need to really fight for those costs. But apart from salaries, there are also other. So the building costs to build up a new hotel. For the real estate, they are rising. Interest rates are rising. Even anything that you do for catering are rising. So all the costs are rising constantly. So that is, of course, a big question, like what can you do about it? Maybe you should think about something that what could you automate in a way, because if you don't need to spend so much time, so much workforce for the things that you have done before, it's already a good tip forward. Already many hotels have been doing this for sustainability angles, that you might not every day wash all the towels that have been used, but you ask your guests to maybe keep the towels for the next day. You save money, time and cost on that. Similarly, there are a lot of other things that you could automate in the industry, starting from breakfast, how you make it in a way that you have a chef there constantly, or maybe you have some automated systems. Coffee machines have been there for a long time. What about some other solutions for that? And then if you go to the bigger scale of options, for instance, for catering or providing good meal services, these all can be automated in a way that you have a machine that does like a Selfly store, this for you. So you just put in things and there's a cashier, and then for the consumer, it's available at any time at their convenience. One big change that has already been here for maybe a couple of decades in the hotel industry, there'll be new solutions coming. Many hoteliers were used to say that, no, we are going to keep the industry same, we're going to focus on the same things and have a certain amount of rooms, work with the certain concepts. But then came Airbnb. It changed the way of actually other companies and other people actually coming to the same industry, taking care of the same people. Suddenly consumers had a lot more options. I know that some hoteliers were saying that no, the apartment hotels are not the ones to go for reasons of, again, thinking that when you have maybe small scale rooms and big operations, that's the way to go. But consumers and then apart hotels started to come, so short-term renting to even long-term renting in hotel-like environments. So these started to come up there with a separate concept. You might have a kitchen there for you to cook various, in a normal hotel you were used to getting the whole services from the hotel. So these changes have come, and I think they're coming even more rapid nowadays because new concepts for hotels have been coming, also from self-service hotels to kind of full-scale 5-star hotels where you can get everything. You just come there and enjoy. So you're going to fight for the consumer's attention and the money, and even the business travel is similarly way, that who's going to go where, and the competition is not going to stop here. In a lot of bigger cities, the competition is becoming more and more fierce, and new players coming in, new investment opportunities for big players are coming constantly, and changes are happening all the time. So of course, this is something that you should be aware of all the time when you're focusing on your hotel business. Then if you look at more from the consumer side, so consumers also have preferences. They have been like a lot of trends of this eating healthy. I used to travel in business a lot before prior to COVID, and then I think it was more like a lot of unhealthy eating for me as well, and maybe staying up late nights and going for a drink with colleagues or customers. But that used to be the thing. But now, when I've lived home for a couple of years during COVID, so I noticed that actually I want to eat more healthy at home. I wouldn't do the same things. I was trying cooking more, prefer healthy foods, and taking care of more of my health as well. And now this is something that I'm personally looking for hotels when I travel. So there needs to be a gym for me. There needs to be healthy food options. I want to live a good life. So when I travel now, so I'm looking actually different things than I was before. It was maybe more only on location, how convenient to travel from there or to the hotel. Whereas now I'm looking similarly, and on top of that, then I need something else from me. And these things start to change a lot. And for you as a hotelier, then you have to really think that, okay, what's the focus area that you're going to go for? I think it's a safe bet to go for healthy living. That's going to be still the trend for many. And if you think of especially business travelers, that you have to spend time away from home, so they are now maybe more conscious on what they do and thinking of their lives as a part of in a hotel, not just thinking business travel as a separate thing. So I would suggest you to consider and think that, okay, what could you offer in this field? How could you make the living in a hotel more healthier? That's for sure a safe bet. Similarly, consumers are now more used to digital things. I'm pretty sure that if all of us are just glued to the screens that we have. There have been studies which have been quite surprising to think that actually, again, if you go for UK market, so the people look at some screen more than 12 hours a day. And we used to think that it's only for young people. No, but the similar, it's for everybody. Even people more over 70 years old, they look at their screens or more than 12 hours a day. Of course, screens can vary from being the mobile screen to tablet to television and to computer screens and all that. But mainly we look at the screens. And this then, of course, brings the approach of technically oriented people who are looking for things. It's very easy when we feel hungry, so we might not walk to the fridge. We just look at that, what can we order in? And nowadays, some people even have these kind of smart fridges at home where you can check what's inside. And that's convenient, right, to check it from your phone rather than going for the fridge. But these trends are also in everywhere. So you start planning your trip. You can at any time start thinking of what should I do where, and similarly you scout the locations where you're going for, what's around that. Here, for instance, Selfly Store is providing also an option that you can also tag in the information that you have. You can promote that you have Selfly stores in your hotel and put it in like what's in the inventory. And you can even ask people to make requests there that, hey, I would want this and that to be there. And in the future, you can even order in and say that, hey, I want that when I arrive. So this brings more solutions for convenience. Whereas previously, when I was, for instance, traveling with my daughter to London, so we went to the hotel, and that time she's 12 years old, so we were thinking with her that on Saturday evening, what should we eat? I knew that when we arrived at the hotel, so we would be hungry, but there was no solution. I wouldn't know the timeline when I'm coming, so I couldn't order in from any Uber Eats or Wolt. But when we got to the hotel, then I have to make the decision, where shall we go to eat? But I think this will change now with more common tools and more technical solutions, that I can actually have these things ready for me when I come and already pick the items that I want to be in my hotel room. So these trends are kind of going with the consumers, not for everybody in the beginning, but more and more in these things. We also see the self-service as a suitable option. I don't know about you, but I really hate queuing. So that it's very dreadful to come after travel to a hotel and then queue, wait for to be served, wait to get into the room. You often need the toilet quickly. You want to maybe have a wash up before you go somewhere, or just lie down in the toilet or open your laptop. So the queuing of getting to be served, getting to get to the room is dreadful for me personally, and I'm pretty sure that for many of you as well. Self-service is there already. Consumers are so used to that, and when they come in, so it's actually feeling better that you get it something quickly rather than being served. Of course, there still are these 5-star hotels where you really value the service, and that's the thing there. But in those as well, often your luggage gets carried to the room and you're kind of being served personally immediately when you come. But the self-service approach for many is very simple, and consumers like that. So that for sure is something that we all should focus on. And from the hotel side, of course, then the technical advancement in many ways are there. You can check the room, you can check the price, you can choose easily what kind of room you want to go for. It's very simple and go there. Even mobile options that you get messages and you can check in while you're on the go, so you don't need to even go to the hotel anymore. You might have your key in your phone as well, or that you get your key quickly when you go in. So these are, of course, things that again limit the time of queuing and make it more convenient and more fast for the consumer or the business traveler to come there. And these kind of personal experience that you can build on top are, of course, the things, not only from food, but from other angles as well. Think of what kind of data you can utilize, and data comes from many different sources. You can have a big mass of data that you can make some assumptions. I will show a bit later on some data points for you maybe to consider. But you might have other data points, for instance, that how many people are coming, if families come, what do they prefer, and start using this information to build a better service for everybody who's coming. And on top of that, then personal information from customers you've had before, from their preferences, what can you build on that. So that for sure is something that you should be focusing on and will help you to succeed in the future. But let's look at some data points for you to kind of show like, okay, what kind of differences there could be in consumers. So I'm showing data from Selfly Store's 21 customers. So we have categorized them for big data so that regardless of where the Selfly Stores are. So we have customers in offices to bigger factories, even to restaurants, to hotels, to hostels, to airports and wherever. So there are a lot of different options for gyms and others even to use Selfly Store. So I show that big data and then compare the hotel data for you to understand like, okay, what are the differences? There might be some surprises, some opportunities, and some things that you're just nodding, I knew this, which is great because then you already have probably planned ahead and know what's happening. If we look at what are people buying overall, so in these 21 countries that we have Selfly Store happiness with our customers. So the top selling products are sandwiches, meals of the days, and Red Bull. Yeah, a strong brand. People know what they're going to get when they see a Red Bull. And this is then, of course, the big data from the not kind of separating the segments. But when we look at the hotels, so then you kind of similarly see that there's Pepsi Max, mineral water, and chocolate bar are the ones. One of the reasons why these kind of meal items are not in top of the hotel is that many hotels just don't put them there either, and many times actually consumers are still in a way that when they go in, so they are often thirsty. That's the first thing you think, and then when you get something to drink, maybe a snack, and so then you can relax in a way. So we see a lot of these purchases coming when you come into the hotel and just quickly get something so that you can start planning ahead. So that's of course there. But there is a huge opportunity for hotels as well to go for more of these meal items and provide these things that actually people tend to buy elsewhere. So that's a tip that I would consider. And then if you look at the bigger spread of like different segments that there can be, from ready-made meals to sandwiches and beverages, so there you can see the difference that beverages and drinks are in the hotel sector way bigger portion of all the purchases done compared to the others, where you can see again these ready-made meals, sandwiches and buns. So kind of people are looking for these items. I think that this is going to change for hotels as well when the offering is there. Many times hotels don't offer this conveniently and quickly. They might be behind a restaurant or somewhere else that you need to order in. But if they were available, I'm pretty sure that many people would actually choose these kind of healthy options, meal-like options as well for hotels when you're staying overnight there. We also look at when you Selfly Store, when you open the door, so we kind of try to build it like your home fridge, which I was referring to, that actually people like their fridges a lot. So when you're at home, so you open the fridge, you might pick up several items. When you see them pick up your beverage, you might say, hey, maybe I'll take a sandwich at the same time. More if you go for a meal, so surely you'll drink something. So we look at the average basket size per purchase that people do. So if you look at the bigger trend, so it's pretty static. Of course, then the lunch hour rush for these other locations might be bigger, and if you look at the workplaces, so that's for sure that there's a lunch hour rush. But also when you look at the trends from the workplace, you can see that when people are leaving the office, they tend to buy something with them. So this is then the convenience. But looking at the hotel trends, so of course we can see a bigger basket size, which means that people buy more items to take along to their rooms when they come and check in. And one thing which is good for you to consider, that if you look at the kind of the peak hours as well, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. so people actually tend to buy when they buy, so they might buy a lot more at the time, which of course makes sense. If you need something to eat at the night, so you might buy something to drink and maybe a couple of snacks when you go, or sometimes you might be in need for condoms and flowers, so if they are available there, so you might buy them together at the same time. And then if you look at the kind of day spread, so of course if you are in the workplaces, so there tends to be that from Monday to Friday you have more people working there. Hotels, it seems to be pretty static with the basket size from different days, so there are no huge differences to understand. But of course, if you kind of go for a restaurant or workplace, or depending on the spread of the days that people stay overnight with you, there might be differences that you can see. But there's not such a huge difference in hotels for any day that you could kind of learn from. But on the other hand, then when you look at the basket size, but then you look at the spend of people doing, so it tends to be more that Monday you spend less than on during the weekend, or Friday or Saturday seems to be the big spender days at the hotels. Again, makes a lot of sense. You might come for maybe a relaxing visit, so then you are maybe more aligned to spend money rather than when you're kind of a busy work, so you don't want to spend your money, especially if the company is not paying for those. So therefore, I think there are some trends. But of course, it's very much dependent on the hotel and your guests, that are they more for business travel or coming for the weekends to stay over. But okay, what does this mean in practice? So when we look at the situations and the trends and the opportunities, so of course technology is there something that you should really pay focus on. There are a lot of opportunities that you can leverage technology for. You can reduce the cost, you can automate lots of things, and use the data to actually understand what your customers are doing. Everybody has a lot of data, but I would still look for other data sources to understand really the customer journey that they go for. Hotels a lot of time miss the opportunity to serve and cater food, so if you kind of get that data too, so you have actually chance to make more revenue from a single guest at each time. The labor shortage causes a risk as well, so if you cannot serve the people, so you might focus on the core things. What could you do in a way that you could actually work smartly? So maybe the check-in person can at the same time use, for instance, Selfly Store cabinet and fill it in. One thing that I'm maybe a bit of out-of-box tip is that when you have screens there, you can promote the employee of the month, and then you can really make it personal and say that the employee of the month is suggesting that these were the picks for combo deals, for instance. It could be a tuna sandwich this month, and the next month it could be a chicken Caesar salad or something. So you could make it really personalized and then make people feel that they are valued in that. At least personally, I love it when I was growing up, so I like to play these games and see what sells most. So you can even make competitions between employees and say that who will pick up the best things. And this way, you will keep the workforce that are there happy, and they are eager to push more for sales. In many times, actually, in hotels, you are not counting on the individual ideas to make more sales. Here's a great a platform to do testing and see who can make most sales in a month from Selfly stores, for instance, from pricing to different dynamic pricing to combos, and see what kind of assortment is good for the guests, and maybe give a bonus for that who does it the best. Consumer preferences, as we talked, are changing, so that what kind of things you can do. From contactless payments to sustainable practices, we all have personalized experiences. Like I said, for me, the morning training and a healthy breakfast is important. Maybe not for everybody, but for sure I will go for those hotels that have that available. Costs are rising, but there is also, at the same time, if we optimize the revenue with the cost that we have, are there any other opportunities that you could raise the revenue per guest to be higher? Or one is, of course, selling some services. What do they need? Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs to drink. How can you make more money of that and actually provide it as a service? Then you have a better chance. I know, for instance, it's way harder to change the prices of the room, especially if it's not a high peak time. To change, the consumers will not come to your hotel, but when they are in there, what can you do to make more money is then important. And of course, collaboration is key in many times, so there might be some other companies who could help you out within the industry or outside of the industry. There are a lot of these kind of services that you do. If you look at, for instance, airports, so there are a lot of other companies who do, for instance, from cleaning to kind of security, even for catering. So what kind of these other opportunities you might have as a hotel to make it actually the service better and not to be tied with your own resources to those things. There are a lot of options there. And of course, innovation will surely bring some new ideas and new things. So if you adapt them too quickly, you have better opportunities to be the front runner and get the attention for that. But hey, now on my behalf, thank you. And then we will now move to the panel discussion. I will join that too, but I will give the floor for our CMO, Malin Östman, to lead the panel discussion.
Good. Aslak, you mentioned that you hate to queue. I thought that Finns love to queue. That's what I've seen when I've been in Finland.
Well, I'm only half Finn, so half Sri Lankan, so I guess I didn't get that half. Yeah.
Great. It's great to have you here, Jukka and Aslak. Thank you so much for joining. Before we start with the discussion, I'd first like to play a video from Sokos Hotels Heymo. So let's watch that one. So Jukka, could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. By night, I'm a punk rocker. I'm a bass player, and I'm a teacher of really bad jokes. My only student, unfortunately, is my 8-year-old son at the moment. By day, my alter ego is the development manager for Sokos Hotels. I work within the S Group hospitality chain management in Finland, and we operate the Sokos Hotels, which we have a rough. It's always a bit changing, so we have 45 plus hotels, several under development, and the hotel group is made out of 4 hotel types, and the Heymo by Sokos Hotels was the latest one.
Great, and can you tell me a bit more about the concept and the vision of Heymo?
Regarding the concept and the vision, we have 2 slogans that we work by. One is stay in the city, not in the hotel. So we're not jealous of you leaving the premises. Our services are, it's a flexible service hotel, so we have certain services we operate within the hotel. Whatever we cannot provide ourselves, we try to have a partner ecosystem, and we want you to wander about the city. And when you come back, we want to provide the best sleep you can have. So that's why we just focus on certain things. And what we actually sell in the hospitality business in the core is always we sell sleep. We sell beds, and we sell good night's sleep, and that's what we aim for. So the concept is based on the room. The room it has the basic functionalities. You pay only for what you need. So the basic functionalities you need a desk, you need a bathroom, you need a good shower, you need these days hotels, and especially Heymo, we provide good amenities, Finnish-based products. You need a place to put your bag, you need a place to sit, and you need a place to sleep. You need a good bed, and that's the core of the room. So you pay for what you need. So that's where Selfly comes in. The breakfast, Aslak mentioned, we don't. It's different from normally in Finland. You have the breakfast included in the price. In Heymo, it's an added service. So sometimes you want to have it. Sometimes you want to wander about. You're not sure if you need it. Whatever. There's a all-day breakfast served through one of the Selfly store cabinets, so you never miss your breakfast time because it's always there. It's an all-day breakfast package with different products, and you can pick it up whenever you need it. So that's pretty much the core. We try to be as flexible towards your needs and answer the trends that Aslak mentioned before.
Right, and talking about the trends that Aslak mentioned there, what are some of the trends and challenges that you and Sokos Hotels have experienced over, let's say, the last decade?
Last decade, that's a long time. I'd say, well, one of the things is the digital services. It's not a challenge; it's more an opportunity. But everything is evolving so fast that you just try to hang on for dear life. So that's one of the things that's changing things. During the past, let's say the past 3.5 years, we all know there's been pandemic, there's a terrible war going on, there's inflation, which have led to different things. I think recovery from the pandemic is one of the biggest challenges, because it affected the aforementioned the labor shortages. It affected on different prices, on difficulties on building properties, and etc. etc. So I think the biggest trends that affect at least our hotel chain, and what we try to take opportunities in, is to use the digital landscape to our advantage.
Right, and you talked a little bit now about digitalization, and I'd like for us to stay on that topic briefly. So how do you see that, technology and digitalization have evolved in the hospitality industry over the recent years, and what kind of technologies do you see will become prevalent in the years to come?
Well, it has evolved a lot. I mean, just by, I'm not saying everyone has an app, but there's an app for anything. And we have an application for our frequent guests. That's one thing. You need to have in addition to the different online travel agents, you need to have your own website and your own web service that can compete with the OTAs, because they take a commission for every reservation that they bring you. So developing sort of the standard things is one of the things. The other thing is, I agree with Aslak. No one likes to queue. Finnish people, for some reason, there's a plastic bucket at the end of the line. We're there. I have no idea why, but that's the thing. We like to queue. But otherwise, no one likes to queue. If there's a possibility to get a personalized service, or if you would serve me, I would always, I prefer that. But if it's taking a long time, I have to queue, then I want an alternative. I want to use different things, and that's one of the things that in hotels the technology comes in. You can have this check-in, check-out kiosks, and I think the digital world, the Selfly Store, is a good way of adding a new layer of easy digital solutions that are not intimidating to the customer. So it needs to be really easy for the customer, and I think your product is. So that takes away the queuing for when you need a snack or a drink or whatever you need. You can just have it when you need it. You don't need. I don't need to wait for the person to come there. I think the different digital services. The next big thing, and it's gonna explode, is artificial intelligence. I mean, within the next year, it's gonna change so many things. So it's gonna be interesting to see what it does for the bookings, the check-ins, the food and beverage delivery systems. But that's definitely the thing that everyone needs to be on the lookout, especially in I think in the hospitality industry.
Right. And Aslak, do you have any perspectives on this?
Yeah, but I mean that I think the first step of technology was taking revenue out from hotels. Like if you have to go for these portals, and they were very savvy on that, and cutting your profit margins there a lot in some cases. The same happened with food deliveries as well, that restaurants are now very dependent on the food deliveries, and they have to they lose a lot of their revenue, 20 to 30% of the revenue that they make, and then actually there's no profit margin left. But at the same time, it can provide opportunities to make more money from the consumer. So Selfly Store being one, of course, that if you can actually provide, the cost is not that much, it's there, it's kind of a fixed cost, and then the more you sell and the more savvy you are, you can play with the prices a bit and make good offers, so you can make more money with the guests. But there are other options as well. Some hotels sell tickets and other things, but with technology you can actually automate a lot, and then it becomes personalized for the person, for the need, and also get the attention. So sometimes advertising is a huge industry. So if you own the space inside your hotel, so that provides a lot of opportunities to actually benefit from the advertising and sell those products. So I do see that the smart ones are actually looking at the new opportunities to make more money, to compensate maybe the other consumer preferences. Have to admit that it's easy for me to use those portals, because when I'm traveling around, so rather than being tied into one hotel chain, I'm more like going to locations. So that's there, but at the same time I'm more than happy to buy things that are just in the location when I see and notice them. So there are both sides, I think, in the technology game here.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that we've tried to do and are working on is a fluent hotel experience. So when you walk in, that you see our staff there, and they're there to help, but the technology does the heavy lifting, because the check-in and the check-out, they're processes. They're some person typing on a keyboard doing things, and the automats or kiosks can do the same thing. If you have a problem, we'll help you. That's sort of an industry. It's not a standard yet, I don't say, but it's a thing that's growing. The mobile keys, Aslak mentioned in the keynote, are different. Our second thing, you can come into the hotel. You've already done your check-in. You have a key in your phone, so you just go to the room. We might not even see you, get a glimpse of at some point during your stay. So if you want to be fully self-serviced, but there's usually, like Aslak said, you need to eat, you need to drink. So having the technology again doing the heavy lifting on the process side and then taking the opportunities that you can regarding with your product. There's the screen is a good size screen. You can use it to promote products. I got a lot of good ideas from the keynote on what to do. So you can promote the products and make it as inviting as you can. So so taking on those, and then try to figure out how you can compete with different portals or food delivery systems or whatever you need. In Heymo, we don't have our own restaurant, so all the F&B is delivered through the Selfly Store cabinet. So that sort of changes our game. Our restaurant is not competing with food deliveries. The Selfly Store is competing with the food delivery partners. So there's always a aspect of competition there.
Good. And before we continue with speaking more about the collaboration between Heymo and Selfly Store, I'd like to ask you, Aslak, referring back to what you said, Jukka, about AI capabilities going to hit hard during the next years to come. When can we expect AI capabilities in the Selfly stores?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are already working. So of course, to be able to use AI, you need some data points to be doing. So we have now done the heavy lifting of the data. So I showed some parts of it which we interpreted here, but in the cannot promise the timeline, but in upcoming months. So we will have a machine learning. Maybe the first step is to kind of understand what effects. Simple use cases might be that. Weather is really hot outside, so what does that do? Do you need more beverages? Likely you do, but which beverages? So that you will know, like, was it more water or was it more than some sodas that you want to buy? And what goes along with those, so that you will learn that, okay, it's not only drinks that sell more, maybe you take some other items as well. So kind of learning from the data and using those. Then hopefully we get more information from it, for instance, hotels, like the occupancy level, for instance. How will that affect if it's a low peak hour or low peak day, or it's fully booked? So how will that affect? So we will start learning from those, and then the AI starts building on top when the data and these kind of tests are done, and so it will start recommending things that, okay, what sells where, and maybe getting some ideas. I think we humans are smart to test, and that actually helps us to test, because we will know which are the low-risk tests. So for instance, there'll be items that are not selling well, but we might have our own preferences, but AI will sell that there's this likelihood that this item sells is very low, so then you can actually test with those items. So don't test with the high-selling items, and like I was not surprised, but as an example, for instance, the condom sales tends to peak Friday, Saturday, and at quite late or early in the morning hours. So that we know. But what else sells on that time? What could you put on there? So then there we might need some inspirational ideas from AI, and you could ask the questions that, what could I sell with condoms, for instance? And there you come. I don't know. I mentioned the flowers. I'm not sure if that's the case, but might be chocolate or something. But let's try out and see. And this is something that the data helps a lot, and AI will help to actually come up with winning combos and winning pricing. Because one is then that I didn't mention too much about this, that the pricing that affects a lot. So when you need something at some time, you're willing to pay more. How much more? You can test it, or then an AI can maybe even automate the dynamic pricing for different times in a way that it makes sense, in not to ruin the consumer experience, but kind of for the profit margins of the hotel itself. Yeah.
Great, and I'd like now to dig a little bit deeper into the collaboration here between Selfly Store and Heymo. So my first question regarding that to you, Jukka, would be, I mean, how do you see that Selfly Store has impacted the operations at Heymo?
It's the biggest impact is just to be agile. We've been agile, but not within providing food and beverage services. Usually, when you design a menu, it's static for 6 months, maybe a year. So this way, we can be more agile, testing and seeing what works and what not. So I think that's one of the things that is the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
for us to say, of course, Heymo being the first hotel, thank you for that, pioneering this, but now we have hotels in 7 countries, and I think that's a sector that is growing, and so it's an advantage for anybody within our customer field, so that we can share the knowledge, information, look at the data, and of course, personally being more than 10 nights, maybe 20 nights at Heymo, so kind of like we want to leave that world, so kind of as a consumer as well, but looking at from different angles, how can we help you to succeed in that? So that's why we have these customer success meetings where we talk about like what does the data tell, and then together maybe plan some ideas and give some inspiration from different angles to what you can do. And this is, I think, the best way to move forward is that we have actually a unique community in this sense that would be hard to get from data that's blind data, you don't know where it's from, but you kind of get inspired, but then you have your own data, and then you have a customer success team supporting you from learnings from different countries and different industries, because sometimes you might want to benchmark an office, what's working there, and looking at in a way, because you still come to work at the hotel, the similarity. So if you understand those things, so that provides an extra value for sure.
Yeah, and as been said many times, innovation, it doesn't happen in isolation, so for sure. But how have your guests responded to the Selfly stores, and can you notice any changes in guest behavior?
They've been interested, and I haven't heard a single feedback saying that this is terrible, that something awful is happening. Most of the guests, since they're in the lobby area, they're really visible, and the cabinets have bright lights and the screen, so you notice them. They get your attention. A lot of the customers approach the cabinets, and then our staff more or less always has time to ask the questions. Have you seen this? Have you used this? How you use it? So the guests have been, I'd say, pleasantly surprised on what kind of service the Selfly store cabinets can provide, because we not only sell in the lobby area, we have 4. We have one for the all-day breakfast cabinet, and then we have 3 different ones. We have a snack cabinet, a drink cabinet, and a food cabinet. The food cabinet has more or less items that are more fulfilling. And in every floor of the hotel, we have 1 cabinet per floor, and those sell room amenities. So we have the aforementioned condoms, there's different hygiene products, there's more Lumene products, which are branded beauty stuff. And there's also the bathrobes, the slippers, there's our hotel mascot Onni for the kids. You can buy it from the cabinet. So it's a learning curve, especially with the sort of hotel services cabinets in the floors. The food and beverage, they're more easy, and we notice that there are certain products that sell more, and then the certain products that sell less. But overall, the guests have been pleasantly surprised, and after one purchase, usually the same guest during even a one-night stay makes another purchase. If they purchase during the night, you usually see them in the morning purchasing a bottle of water or a soda or whatever you need in the morning. So once they get over the part of what is this and seeing how easy it is, it's really convenient. And from the business travelers, they say that they don't always, like Aslak mentioned, you don't always need the full restaurant experience. You don't need a full heavy meal during the evening. You possibly need a snack or something lighter. So those are also the items we try to provide there, and those have gotten really good feedback on having something that you don't feel in the morning that you're still full of food. So sort of also been a really good product for the business travelers. Since the summer at some point is approaching, hopefully, fingers crossed, no more snow. The leisure guests have different needs, so the products need to be figured out for this summer season for figuring out what do we need. Do we need bananas and apples? Do we need what kind of things we need, products we need for the leisure travelers? But I'd say they've liked it.
Yeah, yeah. That's the short answer.
Yeah, and that's our focus, is to make it simple for consumers that they would understand. Of course, it's still new for many, but we've been at events, so we were at assembly, which is then for coders and gamers, so they figure it out themselves. They just look at it and open it, but we understand that it's not always the case. And it doesn't matter, like I like what you do at Heymo, that even when I visit there, so they explain that you know that they are there, so nowadays they recognize me probably, but in the first days they didn't, so they were explaining me, so which is great, you promote it to me. On the other sense, like if you look at from the hotel's perspective, so there's less risk with the fresh food because we have this expiry date management, and we can automate things so that we can automate, for instance, like nowadays with high inflation, so people like to buy, for instance, red tags that are cheaper, so that there's no food waste coming because the system knows. So these actually provide tools and less risk. So it's always better to sell them out and throw them away. And in a way that, again, for a price point, sometimes for a consumer is important, so that when you see that, hey, that I get that meal item or a sandwich now cheaper, so I might go for it because it's a good deal. So this will help us, of course, hotelier, but also at the same time for consumer, like your home fridge, as easy to use, actually looking maybe even better quality, so then you feel that these products are really good quality and you want to go for them, and then these tools will promote to you and then save the food waste. So I think, at least I hope, it's a win-win combination for both.
Yeah, and I know, Aslak, you've been to many different countries, to many different events and settings to actually observe consumer behavior. Is there anything that you would like to add on that from your perspective?
Yeah, well, of course, if you kind of go for the Europe level, so for instance, coins and cash is still used in some countries, not in the Nordics that much, but they are. But people still see that as an opportunity, and now, for instance, like a lot of business travelers, they need receipts, so it's easy to put there an e-receipt that you can scan and get it for you. So these kind of tools, so yeah, it's coming there more and more. Of course, in some cultures you might still prefer, like if you go to Southern Europe, to talk with people, but why don't you have it while you're eating rather than when you've been served? So I do see that a lot of people are super surprised on the convenience, quickness and easiness, so that it's not hard, and people like to touch before they buy. I mean, that's when you go to the grocery store, it's not blind, so like when not saying that everybody, but I always personally suspect that if I order bananas with home deliveries, I think they will bring me the bad ones, right? And so kind of the suspicious there. But when you can choose the one that you think there's 2 baguettes, I think this is better, you feel good in the buying process. So I see that happening everywhere, that people are actually happy to touch it before. So it's not like a screen behind something that something comes out, it comes to the item that you really wanted. And sometimes even the Pepsi Max, you feel that this is better, and then you feel good about it.
Right. And now I'd like to switch focus a little bit from the consumer and guest experience to more talk about the staff experience of Selfly Store. So how did you work to train your staff using the Selfly stores, and what were their reactions to it?
It's a small group of people who are working at the Heymo 1 hotel. So in the beginning there were 5, I think, when we started with the hotel. It was part of the 2-week training we had when opening the hotel, figuring out all the stuff. So we used a day and a half, I think, of time of just figuring out, so this is the cabinet, this is what it does. This is the encoding station, this is how it works, these are the different kind of tags. Figuring out together how to tag, how to put the tags on the products, how do we fill the cabinet, how do we make it look like so it's enticing to you. And even before that, when they were recruiting the first fixtures to work at Heymo, it was mentioned that it's a different kind of hotel. We automate things to make it so you have more time for personalized discussions and exactly talking in a different setting than just asking, what can I get you, and blah, blah, blah. So before we opened the location, we did about a day and a half. So now that some of the staff have changed, there's been new people coming, they just go over it. There's always an onboarding process. You work with a different, more experienced person. So they show you, this is the encoding station. It's nothing to be afraid of. There's different antennas and stuff. It's digital. It works like a charm. Don't worry about it. We've figured out all the tags we use. We don't use that many tags just so it's more easy to tag them for the people, and since the products don't require it. So they onboarded during their onboarding process, and it's the functionalities that you need on day-to-day operations, on filling the cabinet, figuring out what there is. Now that the receipts are automated within the system, helps a lot. So there's not too many features you need to know getting started, and then you deepen your knowledge. And there's a few of the fixers who are even more tech savvy than the other ones, so they make sure that they can spread their knowledge, so it's not intimidating to anyone. But just the easiest way to onboard a person is just to come here, we'll do this together, nothing intimidating. This is how it works, this is where the stuff is, and this is how we do it. And then you just do it and do it and do it until it's a day-to-day operation like any other. So, but yeah, in the beginning we took a lot of time just to make sure it's not intimidating to the staff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And is this similar to what you've seen at other customers?
Yeah, and I like the comprehensiveness that you start and like not to be afraid. I mean that when you take time in the beginning to understand why it's here, what are the different tools that you use, and tags. I have a 5-year-old daughter who loves the tags. She likes the things, them as stickers, so she loves them. But I do understand that for me it's always a bit stressful situation to try to put a sticker in some place where you need to put it. So, but when you get used to it, so then when it's kind of a routine, so then it helps. Yeah. So I mean, that similarly as with consumers, when you've done your 5 purchases, you don't anymore consider that how to use the contactless or how do I open the door. It's get there, and I have to say kudos to your team as well. We were with one customer, so we let Heymo people to show how it's done. so and I was admiring that. I was like thinking that even I'm not that good. So it shows then that how you actually learn by doing it. So it works super well and no problems. And when you think I feel that when you feel the importance of it and you understand, like for instance for the expiry date management, that when you do this there, it means that there's not going to be food waste. So you start actually building the value, and that might attract the talent. So, but I'm not sure if you're going to do that, but I would challenge some hotels to test it out, who does the best sales in a month by having the assortment and the tools for advertisement, the pricing, making bundle deals, maybe late night snacks, different things. So maybe even those kind of gamifications might be an opportunity. Not sure who will go, it's not my money, I know, but just a suggestion that why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Aslak. We're actually approaching the end, but I have one final question before we close this, and that is, Jukka, if you would give advice to someone who is considering now implementing Selfly stores at their hotel, what would that advice be?
Go for it. If it's something that I just go for it. Start with one cabinet or one or two. It's not that expensive. Learning by doing is the best way. You figure out, does it work at my location, or what are the products I can put there, I can use, and is beneficial for the guest experience. Because it's not a silver bullet. It's not a one fix wonder that this works here, so it must work everywhere else. You need to just challenge yourself to have an open mind on testing things, learning by doing, and seeing what works and what not. It might not work. I'm pretty sure it could work. It works at every hotel location. You just need to figure out where it is, what are the products you're selling, and describing yourself. Why do I want to automate this part of the guest experience? What does it? What are the benefits for the guests, and what are the benefits for my day-to-day operations? But just go for it, try it out, test it, and I'm pretty sure that you'll fall in love with it. Great to hear. Aslak, any final advice from your side? Yeah, and I hope that I know that in another conversation we talked about, so we are there to serve and help, to understand, and even from the assortment to data, what does that mean, and whatever help is needed, so we are there, so that's our purpose, is to make you succeed. So hopefully that helps as well, so you're not alone when you choose Selfly Store. Yeah, that's one thing that, I mean, it's been amazing, the customer the help and assistance that's been provided at every turn when we figured out that something that comes up with the software, when there's a new version of the software, something happens or something is new that we couldn't figure out, you're never left alone. You always get you get assistance, you figure it out together. So that's definitely one of the big parts of making it convenient for us as a hotel operator. So that is a thing that I want to thank you guys about. Definitely.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. It has been great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
No problem. My pleasure.
It's our pleasure. And then I also want to say thank you to our viewers, and I hope you enjoyed this webinar and that you will stay tuned for the next one to come.